Most people in life are trying to figure out what they need to do to make a life worth living and retirement worth having. We talk about this in every audio cast and every podcast, and there's always someone who wants to sit too close to another person to interfere with their rights to record, but that's okay. What I'm really talking about today is life in the fast lane, and then there's life in the slow lane. Life in the fast lane says I have to have a super car, I have to have a fabulous house, I have to have all these possessions, I have to have lots and lots and lots of stuff, and I have to have fashion out the wazoo. The problem is, as we age, we don't have the same amount of ability to care for those things. When we get to a certain level of 60s or 70s, we start to downsize. Everything we purchase loses its value. We don't often regain its value because we might be too tired, too old, or too inexperienced to figure out how to sell it all off. Now, some people in life have had to go through transitions. When they've gone through transitions, they've literally had to sell everything to pay for bills, to get out of debt, to improve their credit line, or literally to just start over in life. When we're looking at homelessness, we're looking at a problem that is caused by a loss of employment, a loss of income, a loss of business revenue, and a loss of the opportunities to go forward because the people around us are not supporting our efforts to move on in life. That is really it, because it's people who buy things. It's people who surrender to saying, I can see you're in struggle and I'm just going to support you by helping you this little bit. The reality is that everything in the world is bought and sold. And in truth, we spend $5 at Starbucks when we could give $5 to someone in need. We often produce more clothing in our closets than we physically need to have because, let's face it, there's only 7 days a week and we only really need 14 outfits if we're really thinking about it. They can produce for us a month of clothes. Now, do we really want to wear the same clothes like kids in Graminos where they have the same colored outfit for every day of the week? Not necessarily. But the truth is, when it comes to time to decide whether or not we're materialistic or not, we have to look at, are we donating back to Goodwills or Salvation Armies or really homeless shelters, the things that we really don't wear anymore, the things that we don't truly need anymore, the things that are overcluttering our house, that are taking up space, that don't allow us to produce a life with people in it. You see, it's easy to live within a mess. It's easy to live within material goods. But it's not the same when you lose people that are the most significant parts of your soul. When you lose a life partner, you literally don't recover. It takes a while. You're not accustomed to going to bed at night without someone right there to roll into or to snuggle with or cuddle with. You're not accustomed to not having that loving touch or that hand to hold or that arm to grab or that little smooch in the middle of the night. You see, you're not accustomed to those things because the people around you don't usually share in those moments of time. The people around you know that you're married or have a live-in or have a spouse of some significant nature. They literally know you have children, or they know you have a teenager, or they openly know that you're looking to produce them. In truth, when we're looking at how do I make a life worth living and retirement worth having, it's really about the people in our lives who go out of their way, be above and beyond, to say, I love you, don't go. I love you, please stay. I love you, don't run away. I love you, let's talk. I love you. Let's eat together. Let's break bread together. Let's talk about God together. Let's see what's happened together. Let's just go on together and figure it out. I remember one time I failed to call someone. I was just really dealing with a lot in my life. I was dealing with a lot of losses, and I just didn't have the time or energy to deal with one more person who I'd given a lot of time, love, and energy to rage at me because they were upset about something that didn't really make sense to me at all. And I couldn't call. And then I didn't call. And for the longest time, I didn't call. And then I felt like it was too long to call. And then I was afraid to call. And then I was like, well, gosh, if she doesn't miss me at all to call me, then maybe there's no point. But you know what? That loss has literally been with me every single day for almost 7 years. It's been a painful loss. It's been a hard loss. It's been a loss that's caused all kinds of tears in many states where I drove, just realizing that if I can't see her, then I've got to go away from this place. I don't want to accidentally run into her. The Lord was blessing and kind in those moments because only when I ultimately demanded that He show her to me did He actually show her to me. That happened about 4 times. But openly, it happened recently. And in life, we have to say, okay, is God in control of my life or is someone else? Am I in control of my life or is God in control of my life? When you submit it all, you get the magic of God. You get the Holy Spirit in you, and you get the Holy Spirit pressing upon you to do what is right at all time. The right thing to do is always to try to make amends. The right thing to do is always to try and make that phone call. The right thing to do is, regardless of how much time it takes you to pull yourself together and put yourself back together after loss of a loved one, or several in that case. In my case, there was at least 3, that in reality, not including my father, in reality, we have to look at how do we produce a life that's meaningful for the people in our lives. If we're just a thug and we don't do anything real, then so what? But if we've accomplished things, if we've shared our intellectual property, if we've produced copywritten work, if we put people on a pedestal, if we've taught children and their families, or if we've done anything of significance, then we have a legacy. When we don't have a legacy, we don't have much to go on. And when we're old and gray, there'll be nobody around us. The reality is that in homelessness, we can only find God. And once we find God, we're looking for people of God. We don't always find them. We find a lot of hardness. We find a lot of callousness. We find a lot of attitudes of how could you possibly come to this point in your life? How could a guy this smart be this dumb? Or something like that. The reality is that we have to think in 3 S's. The 3 S's are shelter, sustenance, and service. You're often looking for a place to live in America, a place and avenues to eat, and opportunities to be employed. The reality is, can you help them find, or help a homeless person find a regular place that is safe to sleep? You see, in homelessness, there are plenty of people who have homes. There are plenty of people who have sofas. There's plenty of people who have garages. There's plenty of people who literally have backyards and backyard furnishings. But has anyone in your church or your organization ever literally thought, what would it be like to just offer someone one of those items? Just for a night? Just to give them a reprieve of having to sleep on a street corner, or literally sleep on a park bench, or a park in front of a beauty school, or any other place we can possibly find a bench that keeps us off the ground, out of the mud, and preferably out of the red bugs and teeny little spiders and mites and everything else that runs around. In life, we have moments of time to make a difference for someone, but when we don't make a difference for someone in our life when we're young, there's no way in hell we'll get a chance to make a difference for someone when we're old. There's always lots of noise, there's always lots of things, but people are unconscious about what they're doing. They're just walking through life, going through the motions. They're not recognizing that time is slipping away, time with making love to someone, time with having family, time with having friends, time with having boys to hang out with, time with going out for dinner, time for going to drinks, time for attending movies, time for doing things in the yard, time for going camping, time for being outdoors, time for everything is losing in our life. You see, we don't grow younger, we grow older. We grow more seasoned, we grow more wise if we're in God's house. If we're not in God's house, we remain a young, stupid idiot who doesn't know what to do with their time other than laze around. In my case, because I'm so mocked so much, so hit so much, so interfered with so much, I've just learned to listen to God. When God says go, I go. When He says stay, I stay. And that's what keeps me safe. The morons sit around for hours doing nothing with no plan in life. God has a plan for my life and a plan for your life. The only question is, how do you really show that you're in God's house? Today, I went for the 3rd day in a row to a church, a mega church, across the way. They literally have 3 vans in their parking lot. 3 vans. I'm a guy who no longer has a car because the police impounded it. Then the impound basically stole it and sold it. It was all paid in full for my business. So I'm literally walking the community, and there's a church across the way that has these little vans that sit in the parking lot. How many times have you been driving through the community and these companies have these vans that basically promote their business, but they're not using them at all? What a waste of a car. There are too many homeless people that are living in the street. They could live a little safer if they had a vehicle. Now, we all know that there's no lock on any door of any vehicle of any home that actually keeps out the assholes of the world. Sorry to swear. As a pastor, I shouldn't swear. But sometimes we have to be real. The thieves of the world are the liars who think they have the right to take things from others. They don't. They don't have the right to take one thing, because if they were taken from, they'd be pissed off. They'd be getting a bat. I can remember moving into a community that had Indians on one side and African Americans on the other. The day that I arrived, there was a man standing in the doorway with a bat, a plastic bat in the hand. If God hadn't told me what that meant, I would have never understood it. I just thought he was going out to play baseball with his sons. No, he was communicating to me that if I fucked him over, I was in trouble. Well, I looked kind of like I do now, a Harley Davidson man. I understand the bat now in that community. I also understand a lot more about that community, but I'm not an expert. I'm an expert in Japanese culture. That's what I did for a living. That provided me a 20-hour work week. I had plenty of time with my family on Fridays, and we had a lot of good time. But it didn't provide for me the retirement that I need, because cyber hacking kills lives. Now, there's also a force that can kill lives too, because if they just decide they don't like you, they can make it a miserable time for your life. The problem is, they're not paying attention to their liability to God. You see, the God in this land doesn't like people who lie, steal, and cheat from others, and he will literally murder them in their sleep. Now think about that. We always talk about people passing away, people transitioning to heaven, people going away, people looking down from the heavens, but we don't really think about the fact that the Grim Reaper comes and literally takes someone from their life. They either take them in good health or in poor health. My father sort of had a monstrous anger problem, and in the end of his life, he sort of had the just rewards, that he literally was an invalid when he went. He starved for a week before he passed. And it was only when I prayed for him, walking through a retail store, that if it was time to give my mom a reprieve from her daily vigils by his side, if it was time for him to transition home, then he should go home and I'd be okay. In that exact moment, my sister called and said he had passed. Now you tell me, which of my siblings has the most powerful prayer? I can't say. But I sort of like to think that it was my prayer that released his soul to go. You see, he probably was lingering for me to come because he knows how much I love him. He's been to my house now 3 times, and what I mean by that is the house of the Lord comes in dreams. I visited with my father now 3 times in dreams, and last night I had another incredibly vivid dream with the woman that I love and that the Lord wishes me to marry. Now, how do you tell a girl that? How do you tell a girl that you've had all these dreams about her life and your life together? How do you tell a girl that you've literally stood on the beach holding hands and kissed her in marriage? How do you tell her that? In such a vivid dream that I literally woke up and said, "Where's my love?" Now, how do you tell someone that? You pray they listen to you. You pray that they'll respond to you. You pray that your technology is even bothering to get through. The problem with technology companies today is that we pay them, but we have no proof that anything we're doing, anything at all, is getting through. We have Twitter, and we sometimes see that people are responding to tweets, but maybe they're not getting all the tweets out there. Maybe the technology barrier or the technology parameters or the technology vortex is really an abyss that things just seep into, and we get a handful of what's really been sent. You see, the problem with the situation with the girl that I love and the girl that I've respected so much that I will long to marry her and long to see her and long to look into her beautiful eyes and say, "I love you. I truly love you, and I fell only in love with your soul. I fell only in love with your mind. I fell only in love with your heart. I found only in love with everything about you, except what most people fall in love with." But the reality is, how do you say that to someone? Now, I was talking originally about homelessness, but the Lord has led me to a different place. When we talk in life, we talk to real people, real souls, and we literally are either shitting all over their life like we're a macho stud, or we're saying, "Look, in the humbleness of the Lord, I come before you, and I ask for your hand in marriage. And I am giving you an invitation to be my lawfully wedded whatever, because I love your soul so much that I want to be with you every single day for the rest of my life until the end of time. I literally will be the guy that will be there if you're ill, if you're gray, if you're tired, if you need food, if you need shelter. I will do it all." And I'm literally saying, you are priceless to me. You're the fortune of my life. And perhaps the Lord has put me in this moment of poverty so that I can prove it to you, that the minute you arrive, you will literally be the fortune of my life. Now, what kind of a love story is that? One that honors the Lord. One that literally says there's more things in life than power, prestige, fame, and vanity. There is the love that God puts in us for other people's souls that lingers, that aches, that misses, that feels rage, that feels annoyance, that feels frustration, but literally knows that once that's subsided, once the maturity of us goes into it, that we literally can be something more to someone else, more than we've ever been to any other person we've ever dated, we've ever been with, we've ever touched, we've ever held, we've ever kissed, we've ever done anything with at all. Now, in life, we're talking about mature topics in this audio cast. I've talked a lot about theft. I've talked a lot about how dishonoring it is to God. I've talked a lot about the people who just lie, steal, and cheat people out of their property. But the reality is, you're cheating God. You think you're cheating a human being, but you're really cheating the Lord's plan for your life. As long as you create mayhem in other people's lives, you will never get the magic God has for you. I know the magic of God. I can show the energy of it. I can read someone across the planet. I already know that. I know that my readings are worth $350, but I won't say that very often because I only had it proven a few times by the people who know how to evaluate that. The reality is that my life is not a game for someone to play. It is my life, and I'm talking about homelessness because I recognize what homelessness does to people. It creates a callousness around them in the Christian community that is out of control. The Lord is never honored by a pastor who says, "I'm sorry, you don't belong to our church. I can't help you." Jesus Christ, the King of Nazareth, never in his million years did he ever say that to anyone who approached him for his help and guidance. In life we have moments of time to prove we are aligned with ourselves in the house of the Lord. Those who play games with other people's lives, property, and possessions have failed God. And think about that. The day that you step into heaven, God will go, "Why did you fail me, son or daughter?" You see, when people don't respond, they're not failing the person, they're failing Lord in them. They're failing their Jesus Christ beliefs, and they're failing the Holy Spirit, who's probably told them many times, "Stop now, go, and make amends." In life, we have moments of time to make all the difference in the world for people. I say this all the time. I know what it means to me to not have a birth family anymore. It means I'm free and I'm safe from harassment, from harm, from physical abuse, from attacks on my life, and from people stealing from me right and left. It doesn't protect me from the strangers who think they have the right to do that too. Now in life I can make long or short audio casts, but the reality is the one that I love is all I'm waiting for. That is the only thing that makes my heart sing. It is the only thing that means everything to me, and is the only thing that my siblings thought they'd monkey around with. And you know what? They dishonored the Lord in that moment of time, believing that they knew what God had planned for my life. They don't, and they better learn it quick, because in truth, they will lose the crowns in heaven that the Lord has set aside for them because of their vileness, their vanity, their vigilance, and their vigilantism that has put a violence in my life such that someone is monkeying with me when I sleep. I won't tolerate that, which is why I won't put the one I love or her children at risk. If it takes longer, it takes longer. If it takes shorter, it takes shorter. But the truth is, we are both safest together than apart. In life, we have moments of time to say, "I love you." I have said this now more than 10,000 times, but I want to say it in person now. I want to show you in my eyes, my heart, my mind, my soul, and the voice tone that I pray I can utilize, so that you feel it through every aspect of your entire being, that when I say I love you, it means forever. Thanks for listening.